What is up, Space Pirates? I am your captain, the chronically charismatic dread pirate Dr. Disaster, and today we get to return to a galaxy far, far off the mark and discuss the possibility of the Disney Plus show, The Book of Boba Fett, being renewed for a second season.
What the hell are you talking about?
Now, I can hear all of you saying at the same time, but Captain, why the hell would they make a follow-up to the Book of Boba after its disastrous reception? I mean, look at the Rotten Tomatoes score for this turd. 53% is all they got, even after Rotten Tomatoes does what it does to protect Disney. It still only got 53%. The only worse rated Mandoverse show was Season 3 of The Mandalorian, but at least that one has the marketability of Grogu to lean on. The Book of Boba was so weak it had to shoehorn in Din Djarin and Grogu in order to trick people into watching it.
Fool you!
Well, me hearties, you're absolutely right. Nobody in their right mind would think this is the sort of show that should get a second season, and yet here we are. A few articles have come out discussing this possibility after an interview from Temuera Morrison, the man who plays Boba Fett, surfaced. In this video, we're going to have a look at one of these articles to see what all the fuss is about and see if Disney can figure out a new way to ruin an iconic, beloved character from Star Wars.
That is one big pile of shit.
As usual, crew, make sure to like this video. It really helps me in defeating that pesky old algorithm monster, and if you haven't followed me on Twitter yet, please do it. My handle is Dr. Disaster1. All that being said, let's start this off by having a look at this article from CBR. The headline says, "The Book of Boba Fett star addresses the Star Wars show's future. Temuera Morrison responds to the fan demand for a second season of The Book of Boba Fett on Disney+." What demand? That is a really interesting way of framing the story. Let's see if CBR has any data or anything to back this up, or maybe they're just talking out of their ass. Anyhow, they say Temuera Morrison has weighed in on the possibility of Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett getting a second season. Premiering on Disney Plus in 2021, The Book of Boba Fett starred Morrison as the titular bounty hunter alongside Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shand. A spin-off of The Mandalorian, the series had mixed reviews, though it drew very high viewership on Disney Plus upon its release. Alright, let's talk about that. Mixed reviews is an interesting way to say that a large section of the Star Wars fanbase despised this show. Once again, look at the Rotten Tomatoes score. It had a putrid 53%. I guess that's higher than The Last Jedi, but that's not exactly saying much. But if we want to drill down even further, look at the specific episode ratings for the show on IMDb. The first episode had a 7.3 out of 10. The second had an 8 out of 10. The third episode was rated 6.4, and the fourth was a 7.3. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, it shot up to a 9.1 and a 9.2 for the two episodes where they went away from Boba Fett and followed Din Djarin and Grogu for what was basically Mandalorian Season 2.5. And then, the final episode for the series went back down to a 7.7. Basically, what we can see here is that the Book of Boba Fett rode the coattails of the Mandalorian, and people were super interested when they saw the Mando characters on screen again. Not to mention Luke Skywalker, but the general consensus on the Boba story was that it was pretty meh. I'll dig in deeper on this a little bit here and prove to you that the show was an absolute turd, that it was not very popular among Star Wars fans. Anyhow, the article continues, it has since been unclear if there will be a second season of the Book of Boba Fett, and Morrison explained in a new interview with News Hub that even he is still clueless about the show's future. And then if we scroll down a bit, we can see that they have a link to the interview with Temuera Morrison. Let's watch it and see what he has to say. I'm going to fast forward to the relevant spot because it's about a 20-minute interview. But here we go.
I've noticed the popularity, the Mandalorian, the Boba Fett, the whole thing is really, really lifted, really popular at some of these cons now. So
we love it. We can't wait for season 2, which is starting when?
No word yet. I don't even know if there is going to be a season 2, and you're the first one to know this.
All right, you just don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on. Well, we're coming out of this downtime period, so I think everyone's just settling back in. Yeah. And it all goes back to budgets and what they want to do and how much everything costs. So
always.
I really don't know. Judging by the fans I've met, they all want a season 2 of Boba Fett, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
Clearly what we have here is a case of someone only seeing things from his own point of view. Of course, the people at the cons are going to be asking for a second season of Boba Fett. Those guys are the rabid diehards, the ones who don't care about story, but only care about blindly consuming more content.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
But if we really look deeply at the fan interest, once again, people only became interested in the show when they brought in Grogu and Din Djarin. Everyone was bad-mouthing Boba Fett because he seemed weak and out of character, and the show lost steam completely in the final episode when Grogu decided to return to Din Djarin, damaging the Book of Boba Fett and retroactively ruining the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. If you want proof, though, that people didn't actually give a shit about the Book of Boba, take a look at this Google Trends chart. If you're not familiar with Google Trends, what it is a service offered by Google which tracks the popularity of a search term relative to other terms. It won't tell you how many times something has been searched as a pure number, but what it will do is show you the popularity of a term compared to another term. It's a great way to gauge interest in a subject. For example, the red line here represents the search term for The Mandalorian. The first spike on the left was the first season of the show, and the next large spike is the second season of the show. As you can see, both seasons were about as popular as one another, but then you can see the blue line here, which spiked during the first and likely only season of the Book of Boba Fett. And I'm using the word spiked here loosely because at its peak, the show only reached 25% of the popularity of The Mandalorian. Now compare that to the yellow line, which represents the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. That show reached 70% of Mando's popularity, dwarfing the Book of Boba. The Andor show is represented by the green line. At its peak, it also reached 25% of The Mandalorian, just like the Book of Boba. But what that show didn't have was the advantage of being a part of the Mandoverse, and it didn't have the advantage of featuring a long-beloved character like Boba Fett. Andor himself is pretty much a nobody in the Star Wars universe. And then it's worth noting that the popularity of Mandalorian Season 3 was drastically reduced after the Book of Boba, reaching only 35% of the peak of the first 2 seasons. I would argue that this was for 2 reasons. Number 1, Mando 3 was just a terrible show that seemed aimless and pointless. But the relevant part for what we're talking about here, reason number 2, the Book of Boba Fett completely damaged the Mandoverse. Once the first 2 seasons of the show were undone by the Book of Boba, people checked out. Once Luke's heroism was once again canceled out, a lot of us said to hell with it. So no, I don't think Temuera Morrison knows what he's talking about. I think he seems like a really cool dude. I love his enthusiasm, but he only sees the fans who are still clinging to Disney Star Wars like a security blanket. Those are the only people that he interacts with. The rest of us don't give a shit about another season at all, which is, of course, why I think it would be wonderful if Disney actually threw tons of money at this project. It would be absolutely destined to fail, and I would find it absolutely hilarious. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.